Hey y'all, what's up? It's Joanna Leaves and welcome back to my channel and welcome to a video where I share why I'm not really feeling the moss pose like that anymore. So a few months ago, I definitely said that I was gonna put these plants on moss poles and I was really excited about them. I showed y'all my moss pole plants. I did an updates video on them, and I guess this is the final update because I am so over the moss poles. I knew that of myself before I even put my plants on moss poles. I absolutely knew that I did not like the idea of moss poles. Not that I don't believe that it does its thing, but it didn't mesh well with my style of care. But for some reason, I thought because philodendron are some of my favorite plants ever, I believed that I was gonna be inspired if I just put a bunch of philodendron on moss poles. I was inspired for all of maybe 6 weeks. And then after that, I was like, this is actually getting exhausting. It's very tiresome and I do not enjoy. I do not want to do it. I do not like doing it. So I thought I would talk to y'all a little bit about some of those things that have really got to me when it comes to moss poles. So some of the drawbacks and the things that have changed, or the things that are making me change my mind about them. And then I'll let you know a little bit more about what plans I have for my moss pole plants, whether or not I'll keep any, etc. But yeah, I just wanted to chit chat with y'all about why I'm really just not feeling the poles. So in these last 3 months, there have been some major drawbacks to moss poles overall in my care, and things that are kind of like tension points for me. I feel like there are 1,000,005 videos right now about people that are no longer growing their plants with moss poles, they're just not feeling it, etc., etc. And I truly believe that there were ways that I could avoid falling into the whole, I absolutely need to take all my plants off poles, hate moss poles, I'm over the poles, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that moss poles just did not mesh with my like style of care. And that's okay. I tried it, it's not working for me. I need to try something else. The first thing that's really not meshing well for me is the watering. So in the summertime when I first started, my poles were staying moist for at least 5-ish, 6 days, and I could just like top it up with a little squeegee at the area where I wanted the like aerial roots to kind of like latch in, and then give it a good shower like every week, right? Now that we're in the winter time, these plants are needing to be like watered fully like every 2-ish days. I absolutely do not have the capacity for that. It was already exhausting to take all of those plants down the stairs once a week to do that. I cannot do that 3-4 times a week. That's an absolute no. I think if I had a backyard where I could just hose them down every day and they lived in a climate where they could stay outside and get rained on, it would be easy, but the watering method is just not working for me. I do know, and shout out to Tiara, I do know that you could make your moss pole self-watering. My only thing is that I would have to make the pot that I've planted my plant into self-watering as well. And I just don't have like those self-watering setups for like in the size that is required for my moss poles currently. I don't grow in semi-hydro, and I actually really don't want to buy too many. I've said this before, I don't want to buy a ton of other substrates just to navigate that. I just realized that I didn't want to do that. I didn't have the setup and the things for self-watering, and I didn't actually really want to buy those. I didn't want to actually be taking my plants down to the shower to wash them every 3 days. Like, who has time to do that? Well, people have time, but I don't feel like spending my time doing that. And then I really just don't want to be spraying the plants upstairs in their spot, because one, when you're spraying that water, the water could be getting on your walls, etc. It's just messy. And I didn't have like a water bottle or the time and energy, because now if you do the upside down water bottle method, you still have to come back and make sure you're emptying out the catch pot, because you don't want your plant sitting in water. Regardless of how you flip it and switch it, it's gonna be a lot of work. Now, the self-watering method might be the most helpful for folks, but I realized I did not want to go and buy it wasn't something I was willing to invest in, which means you probably don't really like the poles like that. The next thing that was really like a sign that, oh baby, you don't really like this, I had to do my first couple chop and extends. Whoa. Either chop and extends or just extensions of the moss poles. Whoa. Every time I have to do any kind of moss pole creation, moss pole adding, anything, that entire experience is not serene for me. It's always very stressful. And I don't like that. Most of my plant care is very, very, very serene for me. It makes me feel good. I, in fact, save a lot of my plant care for not on camera. I enjoy just sitting down and like potting up my plants and like, just doing me, enjoying my life with them. So when I realized like you hate making poles, don't like doing them, the entire adding on the pole, they also get heavy. I had to put a stake on one of the poles to keep it up so it's not falling over. I just didn't enjoy any of that. I had to extend my red emerald. I think I had to chopped and extended my Milano Chrysum, and then I shared a piece with my aunt. I had to extend the pole for the varicosum. And I just realized, girl, you really do not like this. This is not for you. And you're forcing yourself to do it because you want to see something size up. But really and truly, you've seen what they look like sized up on other people's channels. Do you really need those in your house? The answer is no. So that's where we're at with that one. The next thing that was really getting to me is I believed that when I put my plants on moss poles, that the internodal spacing was going to tighten up a little bit. And I have plants that were not on moss poles that had tighter internodal spacing. And then when I put them onto the moss pole, it seemed like their spacing was stretching out. Or plants where the first few like leaves that they put out while on the pole, tight internodal spacing, and then it just widened. But it's the same conditions that the plants were getting. I didn't like that. I also feel like when you have like a bare piece on a moss pole, not beautiful. Moss poles themselves are not very aesthetic either. And in the way that I'm trying to shift my collection, I really don't want to be looking at these poles that A, I don't even enjoy growing on. B, they're not fitting my aesthetic very well or the direction that I want to go. And they're just kind of like taking up a lot of space. For me, I feel like while moss poles, and this kind of goes into the next like idea, that the next thing that was kind of bothering me. I know that people will make it seem like moss poles are great because they take up a lot of vertical space versus width space. But for me, when you have a collection of this size in a smaller space, tiering your plants really does allow you to have more, not more plants, but allows you to have like, you can use one light source for multiple plants if you have them tiered where they can all be getting light versus having them flat. But with a moss pole, you kind of can't put anything behind it. You can barely put anything in front of it because it needs the light straight on. And it just takes up a lot of space in terms of like the light, the way that I can produce or provide light in my collection. And I don't too much like that. So yeah, that's another thing that has been kind of getting to me. So like even in this section here, I probably could place more plants here, but I am hoping to move in a different direction once I, free myself from the shackles of moss poles and not have as many plants here and put this section back to being what it used to be, which was like a kind of like a station for supplies and stuff like that, so that I can reduce like some of the vertical clutter. I also feel like moss poles sometimes can look a little bit like cluttery if it's not like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to get. There's like a look that these plants are giving that is just, it's giving mess, like, and I think it also does have a lot to do with these two plants, the two arabescens that I have, the red emerald and emerald queen. They just look a little bit messy, and I don't know what was taking over my brain when I first got them that was making me think, yay, this is great. I think it was just the idea of trying to put plants on poles that was making me excited, but I'm really not feeling it. In fact, I actually like looking at them, they stress me out and I don't want to be stressed out in my collection. The final thing that has really pushed me away from moss pole plants is definitely that a lot of my dream plants or plants that I truly love to see have been causing me stress. The first one that I want to talk about that is like a dream plant is the Milano Chrysum. Honestly and truly, that plant kept putting out smaller and smaller leaves. It was rooting into the pole. Pole was maintaining moisture, pot maintaining moisture, and it just wasn't doing well. I had it sitting in front of a Barina T10. I've tried multiple things and it just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. It's not even that it wasn't growing. It was growing. It just wasn't sizing up. And I feel like when you're putting in a lot of effort for a plant and you're not getting anything in return, it makes sense that you wouldn't like something. And I love seeing Milano Chrysums. I love a Milano. And I feel like me putting it on a pole and having it in my house started to make me not really like the plant overall. but I do like the plant. I just don't like growing it. The same can be said for the varicosum. It wasn't necessarily a dream plant. I actually initially didn't really like it. This is one, let me bring it up for y'all. So here's my varicosum currently, and it's actually ducking away from the light, which is kind of annoying. So it also has a nice bright yellow leaf back here. The newest leaf is here, and it is finally starting to get that varicosum-y look. I am deeply considering getting rid of this one because I can't. I'm just so tired. This plant barely wants to attach itself to the pole. This pole is literally still, okay, wait. This pole is literally still damp. Okay, up here is a little bit crunchy, but it literally, down here where it's moist, it literally won't fully root in. That is very annoying. I don't know what is going on. It is kind of sizing up a little bit leaf by leaf. However, the plant literally is like ducking away from the light. I don't know what situation it needs. I tried to move it a little bit further back. And then even as it's growing, while this like on camera looks like, wow, such a nice varicosum leaf, I am not sure that I'm actually a fan of it. And I think that I got this plant buying into the hype. I literally said, I think I even said it on a video. I said that I didn't initially like the plant because I thought it looked a little weird. And then here I am with it. So this is one of the ones that like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna put it on the chopping block because I feel like I just got it because I wanted to have a plant on a pole that like a lot of people have on poles, but I realized I can admire it in other people's collections. I don't really enjoy this. It's not like aesthetically pleasing me. And then also I feel like it's requiring more from me than it should. I do see a root coming out the back of this pole, which is actually cracking me up. But yeah, that's just, I just don't really like this. Like that leaf looks all right on camera, but like you see how it's even a little bit misshapen. It's not even liking its life here, to be really honest with you. Stuff like how the varicosum is growing, and then also I guess I could show my my Milano. Yeah, stuff like the varicosum and then this Milano, which these leaves are some of the original leaves. I think I cut the top to give to my aunt, and oh my God, this thing is infested with fungus gnats. Yeah, stuff like these, I don't know. And then, oh my God. Okay, so stuff like the varicosum and then my Milano just not looking good is really what's deterring me. Another thing I did want to say about moss poles too is if you have even one fungus gnat in your house and then you start having moss poles that you have to keep consistently moist, it could really go from 0 to 100 very, 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 very quick. I have found that since having moss poles, my fungus gnat situation kind of exploded. And that's part of the reason I also want to get rid of my moss poles. I'm pretty sure I'm only keeping 3 poles moving forward. And I will be treating those with like BTI and all that kind of stuff again. But I just feel like the poles, keeping them moist, you're gonna have more fungus gnats. Not keeping them moist, the plant is not gonna grow well. It's like a win-lose. It's a lose-lose situation. You either have poor growth or you have good growth and hella fungus gnats, or you have to have good growth and then be really on top of like soaking like mosquito bits and watering through with those and spraying. It's just way too much effort. It is not worth it to me. It's not what I want to be doing, not at all. So I am going to keep my philodendron squamiferum. Let me actually bring the ones I am keeping to show y'all. All right, so the first one that I know I'm keeping, and honestly, the aspect is probably making it look a little bit bigger. This is about the size of my hand. So this is my philodendron squamiferum. I love this plant so bad. And then if you look on the pole, it literally roots into the pole. I don't have to do too much. The most I have to do is kind of like move up these straps. So this plant, I appreciate. It has grown significantly. It probably needs a repot at some point, but I don't want to do the repot until I do the upsize for the pole as well. So we'll give that some time. However, this plant has grown up significantly since I have had it. I'm just checking to make sure that this babe don't have no situation. Anyway, so this plant, I think if you can see, there's a lot of leaves and the pole itself is very short. So the internodal spacing is sensational. That's one. 2, it has grown significantly. I love this new leaf. It looks so cute. And then also it doesn't require, I feel, as much like guidance on the pole as the other ones do. So this one, I do have some Velcro straps on it, but that's just because whenever a new leaf comes out, what I do is I just move the Velcros up a little bit more just to guide it. But if you look here, this one, it already found the pole, right? And like once I put a Velcro here, it will find the pole, but it's not growing so like far away from the pole that is stressing me out. I don't know. And then also, I really love the fuzzy petioles. This is very cute. So it gives me what I'd probably want from the varicosum, but with a more fun leaf. And then also the internodal spacing is really, really tight. And like it actually looks lush. So I'm not seeing just like straight up moss pole. I'm seeing cute little plant. So this is one that I would absolutely keep. The next one that I'm absolutely gonna keep and continue to grow, and her pole is definitely crunchy. She does need to be watered. This is my Monstera Adansonii double windows. I have literally never had a leaf this size on the plant. It's continuing to grow, getting so many fenestrations. It did put out this one weird leaf. I know that not watering it or keeping it moist will, you know, impact how the leaves come out. But this plant, again, is also on a small pole, and it has grown up the pole significantly. The internodal spacing might not be all like that sensational, but the plant is keeping my own interest visually at the very least. And when I look at it, I don't feel overwhelmed. And it's small enough for me to treat it fully with like BTI to ensure that, what was I gonna say? To ensure that like the fungus gnat situation doesn't take over. And then the only one big one that I'm gonna keep is my philodendron fuzzy petiole. This is the newest leaf, which is a little bit of a downsize, but I attribute that to the fact that this node is not rooted into the pole. I think that if I only had to take one pole downstairs, because my squamiferum, I don't really have to take it downstairs. It's such a short pole that I literally just water it. I use my watering can and I just do a couple like drips down the top until it goes down. If I only had to take one plant downstairs to water, I would take this one. I would take this one. This one is still very nice. It's growing up the pole, and even though it didn't latch here, it still put out a new leaf. It has been the only one that is large to grow up the pole for real. Yeah, and I enjoy this plant. I enjoy this plant, so I'm not gonna get rid of it yet. And that's really that. I don't really have a salient reason other than the fact that I don't have to do too much, because even though it's not fully rooted in, that's probably because it's dry up here, but it is literally like, what's the word for it? It's like flat to the pole basically. So quite literally a little moisture would take it there, because down here, this node fully rooted in. If I was to just spray a little water and keep this one moist, it could do something. I think having one pole that I have to be a little bit more diligent with, I'll be fine with that. I don't think I could handle more, but I do love this leaf and how it emerges. I love like the petioles being slightly hairy, not fully, just a little fuzzy. I love that for me so bad. And yeah, I feel like this plant is not difficult to grow. It's also not like overdoing it when it comes to it being dry. So it's like getting stressed out. It just keeps doing its thing. So I like this one. Now, I could not keep any more than the 3 I have, because I think the squamiferum is just, you know, easygoing. So it doesn't really stress me out. The double windows is also pretty easygoing, and I could also water that one literally over my watering bucket because the pole is still so small. And it's one that I'd probably maintain, like as I chopped it, instead of like chopping and extending, I wouldn't extend it. I would literally just keep changing it out and taking the top part, popping it in, you know, etc. And I would only keep it on a pole like just a touch longer than the one it is now. So maybe one about the length of the fuzzy petiole. I would never go for poles that are significantly taller. I would consistently chop them and allow them to, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Basically what I'm saying is I would never have it on a very large pole. I would rather just chop the top and then like let the top grow off of the pole a little bit, chop that, pot it into some dirt on a new pole, get rid of the old pole, and like enjoy watching it climb up that again. With all that being said, I don't want to just end on a negative note of I hate moss poles. I'm getting rid of 5 moss poles and those plants will be gone, sayonara, for my collection. I do just want to say that I also realized during my walkthrough of my plant collection that I I'm still very much so in love with Hoyas. They do not stress me out at all. Now, I know that Hoyas still require like some upkeep with trellising, but it's not as often as moss poles. It's literally, you could do it or not do it. It's not gonna die. A plant will not die because you didn't trellis it. Begonias are really catching my eye. They grow really quickly, but I'm realizing that I could simply just chop my begonias and start them over and enjoy the process all over again because they're easy to root, quick to grow, show out all the time, easy care. And then anthurium, I'm really enjoying that. I know that that requires a little bit more maintenance than maybe what I was used to, but I think that moss poles have required more intensive maintenance, whereas anthurium, if I just simply figure out a reservoir situation for them, I'm actually not watering them multiple times a week. And that's really just that. So like having like a little reservoir scenario for me has been really helpful. Having the anthurium inside of the cabinet has also been really helpful. And I've been enjoying those plants because their growth rate is exciting. They size up and that's exciting. They're just, and they do a thing that philodendron do, which is like take up space. But I think the growth is way more rewarding for me. And it's less likely that an anthurium leaf is gonna come out real small unless something is really wrong. Whereas a philodendron leaf will come out really small simply because its roots didn't attach into the pole. Like, what is that about? That's a bit much for me. So with all that said, this video was a little bit all over the place, but I just needed to put an end to the era of Adriana with moss poles and let y'all know that I might really only have 3 moss poles left. And really and truly, while I love the fuzzy petiole, if the next leaf comes out even smaller, might only have 2. So with that being said, let me know what y'all are feeling when it comes to moss poles. How are y'all doing with y'all's moss poles? Are y'all still on the wave? Do we still love the poles? Do we hate the poles? What are we doing with the poles? I'm off it. I'm getting rid of them. I don't think I'm going to be doing climbers much more moving forward. And really and truly, I think the biggest shocker for me is that I'm realizing philodendron might not be my favorite genus after all. That might have changed. Hoyas are absolutely my favorite genus, but I do think Hoya and anthurium are really neck and neck right now because I love the anthurium. But that said, I will see y'all in the next one. Thank you for hanging out with me. Bye.